Rick and Morty is bad now. Nah, it's not a bad show. It's just a show that I don't want to watch anymore. If you'd like to hear me explain that in more detail, then don't do anything. I remember where I was when I watched the Rick and Morty pilot, and more importantly, I remember when the show started to hit it big. I was in Boston at the time, and I went out to a party in Somerville with some friends. Everyone was sort of casually trying to show that they'd been watching all the cool new TV programs. We spent a good while talking about BoJack, but as soon as someone mentioned Rick and Morty, this one guy belted out, "Best show on television." That was towards the end of season 1, but based on viewership data, it looks like season 2 is when it really caught on. And overall, I think it got a huge boost in the year-and-a-half gap between season 2 and 3. Like a lot of shows, it started out as more of a cult thing, where most of the audience was people who actually sought it out. Then it earned a much wider audience with the general public, and I'm guessing the show also got a big boost to its marketing budget following season 1, but that's just speculation. And here's some more speculation. I think that a lot of Rick and Morty's early adopters were folks who were already fans of Dan Harmon and his previous show, Community. So why has Rick and Morty become a sensation? Well, are you ready for some more speculation? The series has very fast-paced writing, it barrages the viewer with jokes, and it's self-aware sci-fi, while simultaneously paying homage to and poking fun at some of the most popular sci-fi tropes. Then you've got Justin Roiland's voice acting, which is very internet funny, and the show moves through a number of unique environments and comedy scenarios that end up being great for short clips that can then be very easily shared around the internet. So some of those short clips got memed pretty hard with big hits like Keep Summer Safe, Roy, and at the top of the pile, Pickle Rick. Overall, Rick and Morty tends to provide a great deal of conceptual variety, and not so much variety in the humor or characters. It takes advantage of the animation format, doing pretty much whatever it wants, and let's not forget that those early years were just exciting to watch. There always seemed to be new ideas on display, and with a handful of classic episodes already in the bag, the show could do no wrong. So what happens next? There's a scene in BoJack Horseman where fictional director Kelsey Jennings explains how people each have their own age of stagnation. When someone reaches a certain level of success in their career or personal life, they stop growing. I haven't seen the term used in this way anywhere else, but I've definitely heard that idea before. Not pinned to age, but to life circumstance. For example, the popular high school kid with good looks probably won't be very motivated to improve themselves or acquire any new skills, at least not right away. I don't think that we could call this any kind of sociological rule, but it's interesting to apply the idea to entertainment, and especially to Rick and Morty. You've probably heard the term jumping the shark, which just means that a TV show has reached its peak. It can't get any better after that point. There was a point where all the Rick and Morty weirdness started to feel mundane. The different planets and universes started to blend together, and so did all the wacky Justin Roiland characters who stumbled over their words in exactly the same way.
It's two brothers and they're gonna
White, guilt,
and spirit.
You have 8 eye holes, starting with common office objects.
Little bits.
Where the food is tiny. Take him out of this audience. Kill him.
Then, in one of the most significant story beats of the series, Rick and Morty ruin their current reality and relocate to another, very similar universe. This deflated the stakes and also made our characters feel less special, because they're not special. Fun fact, this also happened with another famous sci-fi show, Star Trek: The Next Generation. The problem has been described multiple times by Mike Stoklasa.
There's 10,000 other Enterprise Cs in different timelines. Who cares? Why are any of these episodes important? Are any of our characters special? One of them dies, who cares? There's 7 million other timelines that exist with them in it. Just pull one of them out.
With all that, Rick and Morty was starting to stagnate, and this stagnation, paired with the show's themes of nihilism and self-hate, started to make it feel like Rick and Morty, as a series, had gotten tired of itself. If I could point to a specific episode where the fatigue was clear, it would probably be Morty's Mind Blowers from Season 3. There's a now famous scene where Summer has to deal with a Scenario 4 back at the house. The big joke is that she's not even fazed by this crazy catastrophe. She's already been through so much, thanks to Rick and his shenanigans, that what was once spectacular is now completely routine. I think that's a perfect encapsulation of the show itself. For a while, it was special and novel, but now it's really not, and that isn't a problem specific to Rick and Morty. Anytime you have something really innovative and unique, it's only a matter of time before it doesn't feel like that anymore. Just think of how long you had your new phone before it started to feel mundane. Then it probably started to get scratched up too. In fact, if we look at some of the longest running TV shows of all time, they're not shows that continued to reinvent themselves and deliver creative, groundbreaking storylines. They're shows that found a formula and stuck to that formula for as long as possible. Rick and Morty losing its novel appeal is evidence that, at one point, it was special, and that it did offer something different. It might sound cynical, but this was bound to happen, and now I need to remind you that this is just how I feel about it. The quality of the show is still there. It still has fun writing and some good jokes. I just can't stand watching it anymore. For me, Rick and Morty has overstayed its welcome a bit, and when I'm not quite so enamored by its shenanigans, I start to look at it more critically. Which brings us to... At first, I thought talking about Rick would be a side note to my main point in the video, but actually, I think Rick epitomizes some problems that I have with the show, especially when it comes to the overall tone and philosophy of Rick and Morty. A while back, I wrote something about how to responsibly portray characters who, let's just say, don't treat other people very well. To sum up a portion of that piece, it's definitely possible to portray a character like that sympathetically, but there's also a significant danger of going too far and romanticizing the plight and personality of that character. For me, the way that this team portrays Rick and his problems has been not great. A pretty famous example is Rick's suicide attempt. Putting this at the end of an episode with no comedy is one thing, but the music choice really didn't help. I'm not saying this definitively, but it can be argued that the scene romanticizes attempted suicide and Rick's implied mental illness. In a much broader sense, I think we could agree that Rick is not a great person and he treats people very badly. But the show basically keeps Rick as the lead. He's also generally the comedic center of the show, and I think it's fair to say that among the fans, he's one of the most popular characters, if not the most popular character. And when a character so important to the show's identity doesn't actually care about much of anything, it makes it more difficult for viewers to stay invested in what's happening and keep checking out new episodes. This offers an interesting challenge for the show's writers, or for any writer, really. How do you create a story around a miserable, cynical character who shouldn't be admired without shooing away your audience in the process? For one, you could put that kind of character in something that's not a TV show. That way, the audience only has to put up with their bullshit for a couple of hours as opposed to 50 plus hours. But there are TV shows that have done this kind of thing very well, even without comedy. Some of the most obvious examples are the AMC Golden Age shows Mad Men and Breaking Bad. Don Draper and Walter White are not people to be admired. That's very clear, but I think it's important that neither character remains static. Walter White keeps getting worse, alienating himself from his family and everyone else. And Don Draper ruins two marriages, jeopardizes his relationship with his children, gets demoted at work, falls into substance abuse, and has a mental breakdown. In other words, there are serious consequences for how these characters act, and they have to deal with those consequences, which makes for some compelling entertainment. But I don't know, maybe the Rick and Morty team is worried that, like in lots of other TV shows, especially animated shows, the characters shouldn't be allowed to change too much. Lots of TV shows love the status quo. They worship the status quo. They don't want to alienate viewers by changing things too much, and if the formula isn't broke, don't fix it, right? And this dilemma even parallels individual thinking about personal identity. Maybe you've asked yourself this before. If I change something about myself, that's a big part of my current identity, will I lose myself in the process? Come to think of it, that reminds me of some TV show I watched a while back.
That's why I was willing to change for you guys. Because when you really know who you are and what you like about yourself, changing for other people isn't such a big deal.
Oh, okay. Is Rick and Morty still worth watching? Yeah, I'd say so. It's still pretty different from a lot of other contemporary animated shows, but it's no longer the kind of thing that I have much of an interest in, and at least to a certain degree, the show seems to feel the same way about itself. But I'm also kind of expecting a lot of backlash on this one, so feel free to share your opinions. I might even look at them. Anything's possible. Otherwise, thanks for stopping by.